Ron's already there.
All right. The magic of virtual reality. Special thanks goes out to Tony Butterfield a year and a half ago. He's like, Aaron, virtual reality. And he did not stop. So he got me going in that. And we've been on a quest ever since. And he has showed me lots of neat things and got me going into this. And we'd like to share some things that we have discovered and things that we have done as we have taken this journey this last year and a half. I have to switch over here. First time done this online. Tony?
Go back. Too far. Back one slide.
Right. There are two platforms that we have done most of our work on. However, there are many platforms that are all around Engage and altspace are what we've done most of our experimenting on and our shows that we have taken our outreach on out into the world. And we have done events such as real-time broadcasting out into for like the launching of Bob and Doug, the taking America back out into space. We had real-time events where we had, I think we had about 40 guests on that one. We've done the solstice, a solstice meeting. We've just had random times where we were in our rooms, in our locations, late at night, where people would just pop in and come and visit us. And next thing we know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and we've been talking for a couple hours at a time. Tony, you have anything to say about this slide?
No. Next.
Planetariums have recreated the night sky since day one, becoming the first virtual reality experience. Today, headsets are an extension of the planetarium. At least that's how we feel about it. Since COVID-19, it's been a very serious issue about taking education and doing things online. And with virtual reality being that you can have these platforms such as Engage or altspace, you can actually use this with full three-dimensional impact, moving around in a three-dimensional world, and you get a lot more out of it other than just a video or just watching a screen or simply just being here on Zoom. I mean, imagine if all of us here, 60 of us, well, yeah, 60, 50, 60. I've only seen rooms that have had 50 before they have to do a repeater room. One conference had over 1,000 people. They had to do something like 10 repeater rooms or something like that. They would have these people in this room where everybody's moving around. And towards the end, I hope to show you exactly what we're talking about. You actually feel like you're in three-dimensional space moving around, giving the full sense of the real virtual reality. It's not just sitting looking at a movie. You're conveying physical body language. You give, there's this thing of giving each other high fives as you're passing by. You're coming and you're going. You get to teach people. One of the really interesting things is when you're teaching here in Utah, in the Nebo district, they started teaching some kids that were kind of not doing too well with behaving. They were in trouble. So there's a school down in Nebo where they send these kids, rather than sending them to a detention school, they sent them, or a detention center, they would send them to this school, and they would have to go to this school rather than going to jail or whatever it is they do with them when they're bad. And they had this VR department that they set up. They were noticing these kids would have they would retain the education at a much greater level, and not only retain it, they would then again get into the VR and start developing their own tools, creating their own geometry, their own stuff, and start applying it into the world and going even farther. It was a very positive result. And this was just all in the last, since February, when I was starting to do this with another group here in Utah. And our last comment there, we're seeing a lot of stuff coming from NASA in the VR world. Tony likes to talk about this, so I'm going to let him talk about this page.
Oh my goodness. Thanks for the warning. No, I think one of the things that we often run into, and this goes with, you know, a lot of technology, is maybe people have had a previous experience. Maybe it was a good experience, maybe it wasn't, you know, favorable. But I went to a teacher conference last fall, and I was talking to book publishers, and they were like, oh yeah, we have VR content. And when you really start talking to them about what it is that they have, they often refer to it as like, well, we do Google Cardboard. And Google Cardboard was a great innovation in getting things started, because it was basically your phone in a holder. And so a lot of people had a lot of first impressions when maybe somebody showed them something with Google Cardboard. Unfortunately, Google Cardboard is not really VR, and the whole terminology for using the word VR is very confusing in the media and in you know, content and equipment. And people have pretty much lumped together anything that's not on a flat screen is considered virtual reality. Well, that's a big bucket to put a lot of things into. And so that's where a lot of the confusion comes in, is because people will say, well, I've seen VR and it's, not very good. Well, that's why I mentioned Google Cardboard. Google Cardboard was one of the earlier ideas, but unfortunately it has run its course and it is actually not being promoted anymore. A lot of what we got out of Google Cardboard were a lot of movies, and so this is where you might hear the phrase 360 or 360 VR, and that's where you're basically watching a movie and you're looking left, right, up, and down, and your degrees of motion and your degree of freedom is basically the movement of your head. Now, that into itself has allowed for a lot more equipment and cameras to be developed, and with more people using it and creating content, then that has allowed for more tools and plugins that are now integrated into Adobe. But it's still a movie and it's very limited. And so what we're trying to demonstrate today, the difference between a simple 360 video and actually a 6 degrees of freedom, where you can move forward, back, left, right, look in all the different directions, and move through a spatial experience. And that's called 6 degrees of freedom. And the equipment is moved, to the point where it's not as expensive or complicated. And as with technology, things are getting cheaper and faster and better image quality. So, Aaron, go ahead and go to the next slide. So yes, and so here we have um, some examples of where 360 video is being used. We might have seen some images from NASA from the Mars rovers. On the top right of the screen, there's some cameras. Um, the top right is the camera that I use, which is basically two fisheye lenses facing away from each other. Um, a couple years ago, we had to use 6 GoPros in the shape of a cube. And then, like I was saying, this got to be, the starting point of more and more content being generated and more people wanting tools. And so this is a screenshot of my After Effects where immersive video is now a part of the workflow. The picture there is actually me flying my 360 camera from a kite above the coastline here in Texas. So it allows for you to create content, but we want to show, we want to be able to move through the content. So let's go to the next slide. All right, now I'll turn it back over to you, Aaron.
Oh, great. I was in the middle of getting ready for the next part. All right. Early this year, there were conferences being held. Educators in VR, if you see on the right, is something that is done in altspace. I think they also engaged, kind of partnered with them. And Rummy, I never have seen Rummy, but it was there. And they did this for 5 days. And this was a conference that went on for 24 hours, all day long for 5 days, 24 hours. People were coming and going, and they were talking education in VR, solid. This, I think, sparked the big interest for the above picture, engage with the company HTC Vive, which makes Android products and the headset. This conference was held. This is the conference that had about 1,000 people, and if you can see there, these are all the avatars that are sitting down in a little arena there, and in the front there, you can see a little gentleman standing up, talking to them. They had the CEO of the company HTC Vive out of China addressing all these people. This is where they had a number of rooms, because they can only do 50 people per room or so, and they have to repeat that room a number of times to get the right proper networking or bandwidth, or however those smart people do all that stuff. But they had 1,000 people doing this, just like we're sitting here doing Zoom right now. And a nice thing about this, they had neat little tricks with this. They can shut everybody up, and they can force everybody to just sit down like they're sitting down right there. But then when they're done talking, everybody can get up and walk around on this platform. In fact, they have museum exhibits walking around. In the back left side, they had an exhibit which detailed all the different levels of headsets from the beginning days of the headsets back in the 1800s, when people would put on stereoscopic photographs from the very earliest days. Very cool thing to have. They had jets flying over in the sky to do commemorative celebrations of whatever. I went to a memorial over someone that had lost their lives in the VR industry. That was very overwhelming. I mean, it was amazing how that impacted people. And down at the bottom, you see there, that's me on the lower left. That's Dr. Star. That's my VR call name. That's the rocket on the launch pad. And we're getting ready to watch the taking off of that launch pad. And you see a couple avatars there off to the right. I don't know if that's Tony. Well, whatever. You see a few people there, but in a few moments, that cranked up to about another 20 or so people that came in and joined us for that session right there. So this is exciting to see this happen and have people attend from all over the world. Not only that, you see the globe in the back. that globe marks where the people are logging in from. So you can see that there's somebody from Australia, there's somebody from South America, so on and so forth. See, I think I
And
said,
so a lot of this was really recently put together since January. As we know, a lot of people in Europe were affected early on by the shutdown of COVID-19. And so educators started asking, how can we get content online? So in February, before we shut down in Texas, I started creating some online lessons. Then we had the shutdown in March. And this screenshot on the left here is actually from the local school district website. And they were trying to introduce the idea of how parents can help teach the students at home. And one of the things that they encouraged was to spend 30 minutes to go on a virtual field trip. And so with that, then we started creating more lessons like this picture on the bottom middle with the sundials, which teaches the motion of the sun. And in this lesson, I walk the group through, compare how the sun changes from hour to hour, month by month, and year after year.
hey,
So this
Ron.
is just like the lesson that we would have given in the planetarium, but you actually walk virtually around the lesson. So go to the next slide.
One moment, please.
All right,
While
so
you talk, I'm going to get set up an alt space here. Keep talking.
pick one. All right, so the good thing about this equipment is that if you don't have a headset, that's perfectly fine as well. And so these social VR platforms offer a desktop mode, and it's called a 2D desktop mode, and it allows for you to use the keyboard and the mouse and your microphone and speakers to go through the virtual experience. Now, it's not nearly as compelling as being completely immersed, but we just wanted to break down that barrier of, well, I don't have a headset, so I can't participate. So, in fact, I do a lot of the production of the content in the desktop mode, so I can switch between screens. So, yes, on the left here, what are we doing now? We can put shows online. We have created a planetarium theater and actually run some full dome content. We can take 360 VR content and be in the middle of it. But aside from pre-recorded movies, we can take these live interaction and lectures and take a field trip like we were talking about, going around the sundial. For the SpaceX NASA launch, we did a rocket party. And for the rocket party, we kind of set up a environment, and we put on NASA TV, and then kind of introduce people that were general public questions and fielded questions and answers. So are you ready? Or what?
Yeah, one more.
What's the next slide? Oh, so do you want to talk about this, or you want?
This is Tony's game that he's been working on for a couple of years, and we're evolving it to bring it online and make it available to the general public, like NSC Creative, right? Something like that.
Right. So, so this is a educational game that has different progressive levels, and the progressive levels just starts with physics and throwing the ball. How do you use an angle and trajectory to make the ball go farther? How do rockets take off? How do rockets leave the Earth? How do you land on the moon? Why are we going to the South Pole, and what's at the South Pole, why it's important. And so this is an educational activity that is being created to help bring awareness to NASA's Artemis program. So this is something that we'll show off soon. All right.
Now, there in this document that you will get, there's just some simple steps to get it set up for 2D mode. And this is this is a Windows store that you can get this on. And there are 2 people that are in this Zoom conference that are online right now that we're going to go join them in a minute, because I want to see this happen with everybody witnessing, and we're not talking a bunch of hot air. So when you're ready, you can refer to this document, just some simple notes and some simple pictures here to help you along the way. I want to note one step that can easily get missed. Does everybody see my cursor? I hope so. Picture number 5, this one step that Tony and I fussed over a little bit because it's going to add in a little bit of confusion. You have to enable 2 things in settings so you can visit worlds. That's the only thing that's really catchy. Oops, what happened? So when you do that, that makes it totally available, and you can go visit worlds. You can go to our lunar phases. You can go to the Star Smart University Museum. You can go to all the stuff that we've been doing, and we would love to share that with you. Or you can see what's going on in the altspace world, such as the Educators in VR, which typically happens every Tuesday at 2:30. And the last time I was in there, there were 50 people from all over the country that had a lot to talk about. And every week they have something more to talk about. And these people that are joining in are university professors. I mean, it's not a bunch of kids or anything like that. These are actually people that are just like us. They're all doing what they can to spread education through virtual reality. And even I think Michelle has spent a lot of time in these classes. I think she has a lot to say about it. So I'll have to have Michelle, if she has any comments to add to this presentation. Engage. We have a little page here that will help you through getting through Engage. And I hope to show you some of that in a minute as well. And then here's some pictures to help you jump right into Engage. In fact, on picture number 4, you see rocket launch of Delta 4. And I think one of our good friends, I'm not certain about it, but I think Matt Masheri was the one that might have filmed this. And I think it's a presentation that's on YouTube or something like that. And you can take any 360 video that's been produced on YouTube, and you can funnel this stuff through these platforms. Really useful stuff. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to exit this, and I'm going to I'm going to get into, oh, you get a sneak peek into Engage here. Or, yeah, there's Engage. But we're going to do that in a minute. I'm going to go make sure that wow, this is the first time I've run a Rift while I do this at the same time. We're going to run altspace. Apologies. 1 second. All righty. Okay. I'm plugging the Rift, and I'm going to just do it with two. Stage performance. This is the first time we've done this through a Zoom conference. Ron Proctor and Catherine, Space Cat, my events, and we got 2 friends are in there. Okay, Ron and Catherine, unmute yourselves because they're not going to have you come in with your voices through altspace.
Use about a third of a million gallons for a 30-minute.
Yeah, do it through a Zoom.
To start the engine.
There's Catherine, North Carolina. There's Ron.
420 degrees Fahrenheit.
Hey there.
Moves through a pump.
So this,
down to the nozzle.
you know what? Hold on 1 second. I'm going to turn this
Through
down.
internal passages in the walls and back up inside the reactor.
That's NASA. Streaming live into altspace. Okay, and we got Tony in here. Is that Tony?
No.
Oh, that's Mike Smale. We got Mike Smale in Chicago. Hi, Mike. Mike's probably muted. We got Ron Proctor, and we got Catherine. Hello, guys. How you doing? Can we hear everybody? Okay, we
Sort of.
okay. So we got a situation where we're trying to do this through Zoom or altspace if we got the audio of them talking. And this, I'm doing this currently through 2D space on my machine. And we're in here, we got basketballs we could throw, we got rockets we could launch. And if you take a look at, you can see where everybody's located on this globe. And we just recently put in a couple of things in here. I got some little tracks here. You can take basketballs and you can roll them down these tracks. Something fun for people to do while they're in here socializing. We got some, an Ingenuity copter. I just dropped in there just yesterday. We got some stuff about Doug, Bob and Doug's launch. And recently, we got some naughty boys and girls in the classroom.
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about either. And I collected some of the pictures that some of our peers from our peer group has been taken of NeoWise recently. I don't know if Mike Murray's with us at the moment, and some of them, well, we can adjust them, Photoshop or whatever.
Those are awesome.
Yeah, I was just keeping an eye on Facebook.
And as long as I'm talking with y'all, I've noticed, like, Aaron and I have interacted in this space a few times over the last several weeks, and he's just been adding more and more stuff. It's just really fun to watch how you can just bring up current event type things and display them.
Well, to give you an idea of how easy this is, once you get used to it, it's like learning any software. These pictures have come at NeoWise. It took me about 10 minutes to throw them in there, just to plop them up there. And you are literally, I mean, you're used to editing on a 2D screen, but when you get used to this, you are literally editing in 3D space. You can grab a hold of those pictures and move them all around, just like you're physically 3D sculpting stuff, like clay and things such like that. You got this rocket I got taken off and landing. Yep, there it is, way up there, disappearing. And not only that, I can give people the capability to fly and fly fast. And that moon that's going off around there, you can actually fly out to the moon and watch it from the perspective of the moon. So right now it looks kind of messy and it looks kind of disorderly. And if you throw 20 kids in here, it's kind of chaotic, because I've tried to do that and I've learned a lot of stuff about doing that. And sometimes you want to sit kids down and all you want them to do is watch a 360 movie, but sometimes not. And so you got to learn how to figure out how to, if you're going to do this, you got to figure out how you're going to design the lesson plan so they don't get distracted. Because obviously us adult children are very distracted. Wanting to throw things around and launch missiles. You don't want to put rockets in here for people to be shooting off and be very disorderly. Right?
Well, as an instructor, I'll add on that including an element of play in your lesson plan it can be really effective in reaching some of those kids that otherwise might be reluctant to engage.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a free-form demonstration, but with the sundial lesson, one of the things to get, to break the ice, so to speak, is pick up some snowballs and try to throw it at the sundial. And then we walk over to the sundial and we talk about how the sundial creates a shadow. Then the other thing is, pick up a rocket. See if you can shoot the rocket towards Orion. Well, Orion has a belt. And so it's kind of a good way for a conversation starter.
It's a very good way. And then when you're in here, okay, I'm going to make, Ron's going to be my friend. I want Ron to be my friend. And I don't know, I think I already friended Space Cat.
You did.
I just accepted your friend request.
Oh, and Mike's my friend. All right, I like to have friends. It makes me feel close. All right, well.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, yeah, you can, good. So,
while they're walking around and you guys are showing stuff in the Lunar Phases demo, does anybody have any questions?